Good morning. We are live here on the Toronto Sports Rush channel, brought to you by the Bet Rivers Network. My name is Kyle Andrew, joined once again by Mr. Dan O'Toole. Dan, kind of feels like a bit of a playoff atmosphere in Toronto right now, doesn't it?
This days like this bring me back to my youth when I fell in love with baseball, and the air is crisp. You feel alive. There's a tingling. You can't wait to get to 7 o'clock to watch baseball. We haven't had this feeling in the Toronto Blue Jays era in the last 10 years, and it's magical. Enjoy it. Breathe, literally breathe it all in. This is that crisp autumn air.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes Toronto sports fans forget to just participate in these moments as a fan of sport because we don't get this a lot. And it's happening in Yankee Stadium, which is what else can you ask for? Testing our team on the road against a up and down Yankees team with our pitching staff that we're not sure what they're doing right now. You had a great conversation with Keegan this week. The bullpen's been all over the place, and Yankee Stadium's a hitter's park, and this could be a slugfest of a series, or there could be a couple of pitching duels. We just don't know what we're going to get.
Kyle, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that Jays fans, who many of them are Leafs fans, you are lost in the worry
Mhm.
and you fail to enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Don't think about what's going to happen maybe come Monday after the series is over. Enjoy it one game at a time because anything can happen. The Jays have played great against the Yankees. As I talked to Mike Francesa yesterday, the Pope, um, he said this isn't the big bad Yankees team that you are used to. And the Jays have realized that going 7-3 against the Yankees this year. So don't fear doom and gloom. Don't look at, wow, we could be out of first in the AL East. Enjoy the fact that you're atop the AL East and we're into September.
Yeah, that's it. Just stay present with this moment. Your conversation with Mike was great. And it's great to get a perspective from a Yankees insider. And, it's a Yankees team. They can be beaten right now, but if we are unfortunate enough to get swept by them this weekend, we're no longer in first place. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's now a tie. So this is playoffs, fall baseball, let's call it, because of the weather that actually matters for once. And in game one tonight, there's a pitching matchup. Kevin Gossman's on the hill against the delicately named Cam Schlittler, who has been lights out over his last three starts.
Schlitter. Uh, if you want to feel good about the Jays, you only need to listen to Francesa because he likes nothing about this Yankees team.
Truly.
It's like he almost despises their existence. I said, "Well, there's gotta be something going right." He's like, "Not really. Aaron Judge isn't Aaron Judge right now." And he just went down the list of, the problems with the team. At least for the Toronto Blue Jays, there's at least one facet working for the team at any given moment, whether it be starting pitching
Yeah.
or hitting, and the bullpen is the biggest problem right now. If you figure out the bullpen, you've got a well-rounded team, but as anyone who has watched Blue Jays baseball in the last month, the bullpen is terrifying.
I actually think at this point, even using the term bullpen might not really be appropriate. It's this weird committee thing that's happening. We don't have a true closer. They pointed out on the broadcast that Hoffman is not a true closer. We
Well,
need our
he is our
starters to go
guy.
innings.
He's the
Yeah, well, I mean,
closer.
he's the guy, but like, is he comfortable there? Even in interviews, Keegan said something. I can't remember the exact quote in your conversation with him about things you wouldn't understand about
Yeah.
the prep and how to get out of this, which is, it's kind of a silly response when this team is in this moment right now, but it is what it is. He's under a lot of pressure on a team that, we've been able to make up for it with offense. But going into Yankee Stadium, trying to play a game of who can hit the most home runs, that's a trick. That's a tricky proposition against this Yankees team because it is their strength.
Yeah, that Red series showed a lot of glaring problems with pitching. Even Bieber struggled in his last start for the Jays, although he did batten down the hatches and pitch four scoreless innings before he left the game. But when you score 13 runs in a game, you
Yeah.
should win comfortably, not have still nail biting at bats, having scored 13 runs. Um, At least the bats are working, baby. George
Yeah.
Springer is the ageless wonder.
Yeah. The Pope thinks he is the key to the entire Jays offense, and he might be right because, he hits all those leadoff home runs. He grabs extra bases. He's clubhouse presence. And back to the Bieber start as well. I kind of liked what I saw there in the way he rallied from one terrible inning, his only bad inning since he's come back to the major leagues. And then he was completely shut down after that. And that's what we really need from starters, a guy we can trust to have a bad inning and still eat innings after that.
That's right. The starters need to eat those innings and prolong any call to the pen. I know John Schneider has been questioned by Blue Jays Nation on how the way he's managed games, the pitchers he's put in certain situations.
Mhm.
But that comes with the territory of being a manager. If you remember, 2 months ago, John Schneider, people were saying he's the manager of the year,
Yeah.
and now they're questioning every single move he makes. That is the that is the tricky scale in which you walk if you're a manager in the big leagues. If things are going great, you are the one, you are the reason it's going great. When things are going bad, you are the one, you are the reason it's going bad.
It's so weird for Toronto sports fans to flip flop on their opinions on these things so suddenly. Back to what the Pope said to you about Springer being the key to
Wait,
the
wait,
offense.
wait, wait.
Oh, yeah. No.
Can I pick up on
Yeah.
that because uh,
Please. Please.
um Toronto fans taking things to the extreme, you only need look at last year's playoffs because the Leafs were going to the cup and then they lose a game and people question why they ever cheer for this team. After one loss, people
Yeah.
would question this team's garbage. They have no business being here, yet they win the next game and it's all back to nothing but sunshine and flowers. So it is it is a it's interesting to watch from afar,
Mhm.
Leafs fans, and to see that bleed into how they cheer for the Blue Jays, where you just wanna sit them down and say, "Hey, everything's gonna be okay," and it's just sports.
Yeah, do you even like sports? Do you actually enjoy this, or are you just is this like a weird S&M thing you're doing where you're just here for the torture? Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's something sadomasoch ma Macus Macus sadomac
Schlittler.
sadomachus m mac
Sadomasochism?
Macus ma say it again?
Just go with sadomachismo. How about that?
S
Sadomasochism.
Sadomasochism. I can't say that word today.
That's
Sorry.
probably a good thing. It's for the people at home. Dan's not into it. I want to go back to what Mike said about Springer being the key because I think in this series specifically, this one's about the $500 million guys, the big money guys. To me, this is about the opportunity and the stage for Guerrero and Aaron Judge to step up because Judge, as Mike said, started off the year like Babe Ruth, but he is fallen off later and he is known as a guy that disappears in October. Vladdy's had a decent year, but he hasn't had a $500 million year. You've said it yourself. Keegan said it himself. We're all saying it. Here's the stage, boys. Have at her.
Yeah, Vladdy, we've said it all season. Vladdy needs to have a game-changing moment. That hasn't happened. Here's something to watch for that I find absolutely jarring whenever it happens. If Aaron Judge reaches first base and if Vladdy is playing first, look at the size difference between those humans. It looks like someone has AI generated a photo of make Vladdy look like a child.
Yes.
Because if you wanna see the size of Aaron Judge, just see him stand next to Vladdy Guerrero, who is not a small human. It is
No,
jarring.
no. And he just had that happen in Cincinnati with Ellie De La Cruz, but Aaron Judge weighs about 70 pounds more than Ellie De La Cruz. He's filled out, he's man-sized, and it is jarring. And Aaron Judge, he actually moves around okay too. He's got a great outfield arm. I don't think he's playing in the outfield, as Mike mentioned. Far too many DHs on that team right
Yeah, they've
now.
got like 10 guys who can DH,
Yeah.
and
Well,
they
it's
can't fit them all in the lineup, so that's the biggest problem is finding a way to get all their bats in the lineup.
I'm reasonably certain in that ballpark, if he's a left-handed hitter, Francis himself could probably DH because it's a bit of a homer dome. But yeah, I'm looking at those two guys to see how they step up for their respective teams. Like uh, they just seem to be such a key for it all right now. Toronto's bullpen. Do you agree for those that haven't caught the reference yet, Dan had an excellent conversation which dropped on the Toronto Sports Rush channel with the Pope himself, Mr. Mike Francesa, and about an hour ago came out. Mike said Max Scherzer is not suited to pitch in this Yankees ballpark against this Yankees team. But to me, while I mean analytically he might have a very good point there, I feel like these types of moments are why they brought him in.
We are getting a Max Scherzer that no one expected,
Yeah.
and he is not strikeout pitching Max Scherzer, but Max Scherzer has elevated his game, and I don't think Francesa has seen Scherzer as much as we have, and he
Yeah.
might think differently if he has seen, minus his last start where he gave up some early runs, but the 3 to 4 previous starts, Max Scherzer has been phenomenal. Nothing. We didn't even know if he was going to pitch after he had an injury in spring training. Then he got injured after during his first start. Um, there was a lot of questions. Is this just going to be a waste of money and he's going to be a cheerleader on the bench? But Max Scherzer, I did not expect
No.
this version of him to arrive. And I think that version is going to arrive at Yankee Stadium because he knows those questions surround him. He knows he is in the spotlight and people will say, this guy's done. Does he have anything left? So Max Scherzer, the best version of him will arrive in Yankee Stadium.
I 100% agree with you, Dan. I think this is why they brought him in. I think he is ready for these moments. He has nothing to prove to anyone. As Keegan very aptly point out on your conversation with him this week, his resume is unimpeachable. So he's that clubhouse presence for these guys. If we look at the Bet Rivers site right now, do you think this is fair? The Jays are very slight underdogs going into tonight's game one of the series.
Yeah, give it to the home team.
Yeah,
Although we have a proven starter against the Schlitter. So I thought the Jays would be slightly favored in this one, but I guess they're just going with the home team. Can we get back to Scherzer for a sec?
sure.
You have access to the internet there.
I do.
Can you tell me how much he's making this season? Because this is amazing because he's currently being paid by the Jays and 2 other teams. I think he's making like 40 to 50 million this year.
43.33.
43 million this season, Max Scherzer.
We're
Man, he has a
15 and
good
a
agent.
half. We're
'Cause
15 and a
he had
half of
the,
that.
Shohei Ohtani stuff going on with previous contracts, so that's why he's still being paid by
Mhm.
other teams.
The Bobby Bonilla special, who is
Yeah.
still being paid by the Pittsburgh Pirates
When
to
does
this day.
Bobby Bonilla's run out? I think it goes to, like, 2035 if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's in the 2030s. It's the greatest thing ever signed. But I wonder though, with inflation, that $1 million per year he's getting isn't worth as much as it used to be.
I think it
Like,
goes up with inflation, doesn't it? Or
I
maybe
don't
I'm wrong.
actually know. It's too bad we didn't have producers in our ear telling us the answers to all
I'll
these
put the
questions.
inflation to the test if you send me 1,000,000 a year. I'll see
Yeah.
if it
See if I
affects
can.
me or not.
I see if I can beat that in the stock market. Yeah, the Jays plus 112 on Bet Rivers right now going tonight. I think given the fact that the Yankees Cam Schlittler, very careful saying that. He's been so hot over his last 3 starts. Their bats have also been on fire quite a bit lately. They put up a lot of runs in Houston again last night. I think it's pretty fair going in to a home game here, but I actually like the Jays to win tonight's opening game. I do. I think it's theirs to take.
The Pope does not see a sweep. I don't see a sweep either. I think the Jays take 2 of 3. It was determined I will miss watching Saturday's game because
Same.
Saturday, the Orono Fair, the O'Tooles will be present. I got the green light from Keegan because, as Keegan said, Dan, the fair only comes to town once a year. So that's all I needed. So if you are a friend or family, member of mine, do not reach out to me with the score. I will be returning home and watching the Jays in 30 on Sportsnet and reliving it in a fast fashion. If you've never watched Jays in 30, it's
It's great.
spectacular.
It's great.
I
It's
love
really
it.
great. It's good
And
show prep for things like this too.
they gloss over innings where nothing happened. Like if there was a half inning where nothing happened, they just skip right past that. Nothing to
Yeah,
see here.
just look at the little score box. You can put 2 and 2 together that nothing has changed. Nothing to see here.
Yeah.
I mean, if Bieber or someone throws 3 Ks or whatever, they'll probably show the last pitch of each of those at bats or something.
Yes.
It's really great. I just want to point something out to you though, Dan, because I did listen to that interview with Keegan. He said to you, well, the Orono Fair only comes once a year, but a meaningful Jays September game comes once a decade. I believe those were your own words. Then he green-lighted you to watch the Jays. Then he re-green-lighted you to go to the fair.
Yeah, so I'm gonna catch 2 of the 3 games live, so yeah, family first, Jays in 30 to the rescue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good play. And were you not also once the marshal of that fair? I think I read that a couple of years ago. Didn't you marshal that?
I was the grand marshal of the Orno Christmas parade,
Oh, that's
Santa Claus
right.
parade.
The Santa Claus parade. My mistake. I forgot of all the many street events of Orono are very tough to keep track of and keep sorted in my own head.
There's a lot of parades there. I will give it that. You could I used to live on Main Street. You could wake up on some days and you're like, "I didn't know there was a parade today."
How do I get my
My cousin
coffee?
showed up once. We're standing in the driveway. I shit you not, I don't know if we're allowed to swear here. I shit you
You are.
not, but a parade started to come by the house. He's like, is this a daily occurrence?" I said, "Well, it's a Tuesday. This is the Tuesday parade."
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's you are no longer there. I was at your home once on Orono and Main Street, not present for a parade. That's my own failing. I like to consider it. But
We
what
should
can
have had
you
a
really do?
parade for you. Kyle's in town. It's parade time.
It's, I would have been horrified if the attendance didn't work out in a flattering manner for me. So I'm kind of glad that didn't in fact happen. Okay, so the standings.
Yep.
The Jays, if they get swept this weekend, they are tied with the Yankees. Boston's out in Arizona, kind of a scrappy Arizona team. Boston's another team in this division that has been all over the map. But if the Jays were fortunate enough to sweep the series, which I think honestly it's on the table, they couldn't do it. They have the personnel. I think that would pretty much put the stick a fork in the Yankees at that point for the season. They'd be well clear. And if the Boston were to leapfrog them, the Yankees have a very tough schedule. And as Mike pointed out, the Yankees do not play well against good baseball teams. So this is a seminal moment in the Toronto Blue season to kind of make the whole thing come full circle, concluding on Sunday.
3 things will happen. Three things could possibly happen. Only one will occur. Jays hold atop the AL East could be gone. The Jays lead atop the AL East could be solidified, or barely anything could change.
Yeah,
So one of those 3 things will occur. One of those
without a
3
doubt.
things will occur.
Okay, so you think 2-1 series victory for the Jays? Which two games do they win? Which game do they lose?
Oh, take your pick. Dealer's choice. I don't care
Yeah,
which ones.
I think tonight's the most likely loss.
Hopefully Friday, Sunday, so I witnessed the 2 wins.
Yeah, yeah, right. So your boy Scherzer, he's out there on the mound tomorrow, so
Ah, see?
you don't want to
May
jinx by watching it if you believe in
No.
such things.
By the way, Max Scherzer, former coworker of mine, when I was at Fox, he came and worked the postseason with us once. Um, the striking thing about him, if you've seen any pictures of Max Scherzer, is the 2 different colored eyes. So when you're having
Yeah,
a conversation with him, um, that's all you can look at it. It's
yeah.
fascinating.
And he is, as again, referencing your conversation with Keegan, he will talk and have a conversation with you about anything at length anytime.
And it's intense.
And that's like he's like that off camera too, correct?
Yes.
How do you
Intense
think that
individual, focused.
How do you think that intensity and focus in conversational nature and encyclopedic ability to talk to people, how do you think that plays out in the Jays clubhouse? Because it seems like they have a really good clubhouse dynamic going on with that team right now.
He's a player manager, essentially.
Yeah.
He if you watch him in the dugout, he is talking to someone about the game of baseball at all times.
Mhm.
He is constantly trying to tinker. He's a master of his craft, and it translates into that knowledge that he can spill out to other players. And they are not taking it lightly. They know the caliber of pitcher he is. They know the career he's had. So they're just sponges. Whatever they
Yeah.
can get from him, they are acquiring.
Who do you think is next in line with that? With the way he is, the way he's revered by his teammates and probably the coaching staff, probably the upper management, all of the media. Who's next in line for the Jays that has is it George Springer?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
George Springer. Man, just the enthusiasm he brings to the game. If you ever hear him talk about his job, he knows what it is. He knows he
Yeah.
plays a sport for a living, and he is forever grateful, and that's not lost upon him. And I think that is a good tool for other players who are wound too tight. They have to realize you're playing a kid's game and you're getting paid for it. And that's not lost on George, and that's what he brings to the team. And you don't think other guys see that? There's like, well, if this guy's played this long in the majors and that's his attitude, maybe there's something to learn from that.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll both be fired if we don't discuss the Toronto Maple Leafs. At least that's what my note said. But in truth, they're getting very close to their season opening as well too. And we don't often get these moments where a very good uh, Blue Jays season transitions into a Maple Leafs team starting a season with a lot of hype behind them, with a lot of momentum. We hear the talks now. They're apparently working to extend goaltender Anthony Stolarz, which would be big for the team's long-term prospects, of course. It's, I guess, the goalie signings over the last week. What is the buzz in the city going to be like if the Jays win their division and they get that first round bye, and or they get the first round home field advantage, and they have all of this momentum going in while a Leafs team is kind of starting to dominate the media cycle? What's the overlap going to be like there for the city? Is it just going to explode? Is the anxiety going to reach peak fever?
No, the Leafs, it's very rare that they get to capitalize on what the Jays get to capitalize at the start of every year. And that is the entire focus of the area is on the Leafs.
Yeah.
So the Jays can fine tune things. They're only getting just around 20,000 fans at the start of the year because everyone's focused on hockey.
Hmm.
So the Toronto Maple Leafs, depending on what the Blue Jays do, they finally get the luxury of, oh man, we can kind of figure things out here because not a lot of people are watching us. People will be watching, but they get that little cushion that they always provide the Jays.
That's actually a really good point, Dan, too, for the Leafs to start their season. And it's not even just the city of Toronto, it is the entire country right now, as you pointed out in your conversation with Mike, is very focused on the Blue Jays. They're very Raptors esque in that sense. The NHL, we have teams all across the nation, so the pressure isn't all on the Leafs. The Montreal Canadiens arguably have as much pressure on them as the Leafs. The Blue Jays are flying solo up here in the north, and the entire nation, east to west coast, all many thousand miles of it, is focused on this team's results. Geez, maybe that's as you state, the best possible way for the Leafs to head into their training camp, head into the season with all the new roster moves. So, you know, I just heard a producer say something in my ear, but I don't know exactly what he was referencing. Yeah. So,
Let's get
with
to,
that
can we
note,
get to Furzy?
we're gonna get to Furzy in a second, Dan. But
Oh,
the
okay.
the thing is, we've had an entire week for things to stick in your craw, potentially or potentially not. And we know you've got something on your mind. We like to call this segment "Puck Off." Dan, the floor is yours.
This is my message to all drivers, young and old. When you're in a parking lot, any parking lot, grocery store, shopping mall, school, church, slow the F down. You know how your vehicle propels itself with once you put it into drive and you don't even step on the gas? That should be your speed through a parking lot. It baffles me to no end. I want to jump out of my car when I see it happen. When cars speed through parking lots, you're probably thinking, Dan, is this really worrying you? Yeah, it does, because it annoys the out of me. So when you're in a parking lot, you do what Todd Fuhrman does. You slow the F down. I was parked the other day. A car came by me. I was in a parking stall or a parking spot at 60. A car went by at 60 and I was parked. Slow the F down.
Well, folks, there you have it. And good luck disagreeing with Dan on this notion. People do drive entirely too fast in parking lots these days.
Thank you.
They do.
This is
It's
that's an
insane.
old guy rant, but it just
It's
needs to be
not.
pointed out.
It affects the youngins too, but let's bring in a guest who himself, as you pointed out, never actually speeds in parking lots. He is a Bet Rivers contributor and betting analyst and handicapper, Mr. Todd Fuhrman, here to talk about week one in the NFL. We're one game in, and we didn't even make it a snap before someone spit on someone.
Hey, look, sometimes you have to start the season on a high note, or I guess in this case, a low note, and you can only go one direction. But Toolsy, before we close the book on your driving rant, I just have to ask 60 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour, because look, there's a little bit of nuance in all this, and clearly you're not built to be on a NASCAR pit crew anytime soon.
Hey, if it's 60 miles, 60 kilometers, both are too damn fast for a parking lot, Todd.
Look, I'm going to agree with you, but I can't sugarcoat it. We've seen you zipping around the floor of those Las Vegas casinos at about 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's all relative when we try and put the entire context together for our viewers.
Todd speaks the truth. I was once walking through a casino on like a Friday afternoon, and I look up and we locked eyes and we both said, "What the hell are you doing here?" We exchanged pleasantries and went on our way into the Vegas afternoon.
Hey,
Todd, when
look,
you first,
it's
sorry,
just,
go
it's
ahead.
just, no, it's just like making eyes with a guy at the urinal. You kind of acknowledge, but you tuck your head and you walk away. Like you don't want to stare down and make eye contact. Like we know what's going on here. And sometimes better words are left unspoken.
The way you described Dan Speed in a casino, I was visualizing him on a Segway, like which would be another crazy rant, running over the old lady's toes and whatnot. But Todd, the NFL season started last night. What did you see out there? Kind of a weird game with the weather delay. It kind of disrupted the momentum of the two offenses. Going into week one, more weirdness on the table?
I mean, look, as a guy who had an over 46 ticket in the game last night, I'm glad that I was on the wrong side of history. In games that we had seen 40 points scored in the first half and 171 game sample size, 170 of those 171 games had all gone over the total. So now I can say I have a ticket that I become the second group of individuals that weren't able to get enough points with some of the weather. But weirdness is always the way to kind of describe week one of the NFL season. We get upsets. We get teams that come from off the pace as everybody more or less seems to go through a feeling out process. And it's not just the players on the field, it's odds makers trying to figure out if they've power rated all of these teams correctly, coaches trying to figure out exactly what they have, and a lot of fresh faces on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So it's one of those things as sports bettors where you don't want to overreact to what you see after 1 week's worth of data, but you also don't want to underreact, knowing that a lot of the expectations we have going into the campaign will be significantly different by the time we flip the calendar from September to October.
Todd, it drives you crazy that the only sports wager I like is the over. The reason being, you're cheering for fun, you're cheering for excitement, and you're cheering for both teams.
Look, I like nothing to happen. I have no problem, Toolsy, watching a football game where teams move the football between the 20s. And maybe it harkens back to a simpler time when I was actually an athlete, which feels like an eternity ago, that as a goalie, I love a 1-0 hockey game more so than I love watching a game 8-7 where goalies can't stop a beach ball and it's beer league at 1 a.m. on a Wednesday night. So I'm sorry if that means that meanders its way into the NFL, the NBA, and the other sports where I like to bet unders.
I just like to say if someone takes the under, that means they don't like puppies, probably as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that particular assessment, but I'm thankful that mine sitting in the office right now is being awfully quiet. Although if you keep poking the bear, you may hear a little bit of barking in the background.
So, Todd, Dan loves just an over bet in the NFL. What are some other big mistakes NFL bettors make early in a season?
I mean, we should let Dan go down his rundown of things he likes to do in the NFL and just say, yeah, that's something that you shouldn't be doing. That's something that you shouldn't be doing. That's something as well.
Yeah.
But I think one of the tendencies that we see from bettors, new and old, they're going to gravitate towards what they perceive to be the better teams. So they look at some of the numbers and they go, you know what? I just want to bet a team and I want to look to try and lay the points in a lot of the marquee games because they're more familiar with the continuity, the quarterback, and some of that fantasy cachet that's there. But in reality, history has told us that you're going to want to try and gravitate towards unders and underdogs more often than not in the NFL. And last September was the perfect example of that. I mean, we saw dogs priced at 6 points or more, become an absolute ATM before the betting market really responded to it. So it's a little bit of buyer beware in that regard. And the other thing that I'll tell folks is there's a reason that they offer teasers at sports books. It's not the industry's way of giving free money back to the player. So if you're looking to tease some of these games, make sure that you're moving those numbers through keys. So if you're looking at favorites, you kind of want to gravitate towards favorites in that 7, 7.5, 8 range, so you can get them below the 7, below the 3. And if you're looking at underdogs, make you're sure you're gravitating more towards those teams catching that 1, 1.5, and 2. And of course, week 1, we have a boatload of teams that would fall into those windows.
Is this the Bills' year? Do they finally get over the hump?
I mean, look, if they get good safety play, they'll be okay. But as a Bills fan, you'd have to be awfully concerned going, you know what? We want to cut ties with Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer a couple of years ago, thinking those were the guys holding them back. And look who they brought back to the roster to try and solidify that defensive backfield. Schedule sets up favorably. They have an inside track for that number 1 seed in the AFC. And even if they come up on the wrong side of the decision on Sunday night, keep Josh Allen healthy. And I think we're talking about Buffalo again in the mix to win the AFC.
Todd, game 2 of the NFL season goes tonight between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers, but it's in Brazil, part of the NFL International Series. How, where can a better find an edge on a neutral site game like that?
You know, it was interesting. The big storyline going into the game last year in Brazil was about field conditions. And typically, with these stadiums that gravitate more towards soccer than they do having 350-pound men decide to muck it up in the trenches, you have some concerns about the footing and how that turf is going to hold up over 4 quarters. But what we saw between the Packers and Eagles was that the defense was at a disadvantage. You had pass rushers that really couldn't get off the edge. You had defensive backs that were slipping. And while I'm not running to the window to bet this game over the total now that it's been bet up from 44 to 47, I do think Kansas City is going to be more dynamic this year offensively when it comes to throwing the ball down the field than what we grew accustomed to last year, where Patrick Mahomes really cut down on his average depth of target, his intended air yards. So I like the Chiefs to get off to a quick start. And I like their team total over that 12.5, 13 threshold tonight against the Chargers defense, guys, that I think is a little bit overrated, especially when you dig into their numbers when they stepped up in class and didn't take on that second or even third tier quarterback a season ago.
I like that we saw a slight taste of anger from Travis Kelce when Patrick Mahomes spoke, and Kelsey kind of mimicked the way Mahomes speaks. And he said he had that coming because when he said, I didn't know where Brazil was on the map. So that there was a little anger in there.
Yeah, I mean, look, Travis is a newly engaged man. He feels he's got to uphold a higher standard when you're going to be marrying the number 1 pop star sensation across any genre. And look, Travis claimed that his attire at that press conference was a little bit looser. We're not sure if last year he was sporting a schmedium and now he's wearing an extra large. But look, like any guy knows, you got to keep it tight if you're going to marry well above your skis. And apparently that's what Travis Kelce has adopted here, because if he becomes an also-ran tight end and he replicates the performance or lack thereof that we saw in the Super Bowl, I mean, who knows? Taylor Swift could have a wandering eye and she might be targeting a Brock Bowers or a Trey McBride by the time the season's over.
You just can't get that kind of insight anywhere else. Todd, before we let you go, you got a little nibble for us for any game on Sunday? What do you like? Give us one.
You know, I'm a little bit worried because this game is starting to get trendier than I would have anticipated, but I love an underdog, especially in a divisional game early on in the season. We saw one bark on Thursday Night Football with the Cowboys getting home comfortably as an 8-point dog. I'm going to stay in the NFC East and make a case for the Giants, plus the 6 against the Washington Commanders. This is a Giants defensive line that I think could be one of the top 5 units in the league. I know matched up against the Commanders and a mobile quarterback in Jaden Daniels, it could pose some problems. But that Commanders offensive line isn't 100%. No Sam Cosmi there. We know that Terry McLaurin was a late arrival in training camp, so you wonder if he'll be on the same page as his starting quarterback. And the other thing about Washington last year, they were so successful, guys, in sustaining drives by converting on 3rd and 4th. I wonder if there's a little bit of a correction in the variance. And if we're going to talk about professional football players being married to pop stars, why not back Russell Wilson plus the 6 and hope it's the Giants defense that can keep this game competitive? I'll take Brian and Dable and company to get us to the window on Sunday.
That's fantastic, Todd. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we will be having you back this season, especially to talk about dating rumors and who's marrying who in the NFL. And you got to find the plays. You got to find the angles. And if you're pulling them out of that, we respect and appreciate you all the more. Thanks, Todd.
Hey, always a pleasure. And one final thing, I'm going to
Yeah.
put a button on it for Toolsy and his driving rant. I want to hear what his thoughts are on roundabouts. So I'm going to hang up and I'm going to listen because I equate roundabouts to drivers as the modern day equivalent of Lord of the Flies on the roadway.
Wow.
I love roundabouts.
You
I've
would,
one at
Toolsy.
the
You would.
I go through a roundabout every single day by my house, and there are no problems. We have it all figured out here.
Do you do it at 60 miles an hour, though?
No, no, no.
A little bit
Dan
disappointing.
lives his life a quarter mile at a time, just like Vin Diesel.
Thanks,
Hey,
buddy.
always a pleasure, boys. Enjoy the football this weekend.
Thanks, Todd. Well, Dan, that was special. We got a little bit of betting insider look from our friend or co-contributor here on the Bet Rivers Network. What else you got going? You must be
This
looking
is
forward to
now
the
the
fair.
third place I've worked with Todd. Worked
No
with him
kidding.
at Fox, worked with him at I forget where I used to work at before Fox. It's probably closed down now. It's probably a shuttered
Denny's.
company. And now I work with him here. This is amazing. I love it.
That's amazing.
Everything
He's a
comes
good
full
guy.
circle.
Todd's a good guy and he's a smart guy. And I did not know all of the ties between pop stars and betting and sports, but my God, he's right about all of it. So I got to go and make my bets right now. How about you? How are you prepping for the fair this weekend? The whole family? It's a whole family affair?
Oh yeah. Pardon the pun. Oh, whole family affair. Yeah, it's midways, it's rides, it's people watching, it's crap food, and then you go home and you say, "Man, we survived those rides that we probably shouldn't have gone on, but we did it and we had fun."
That's awesome, Dan. Well, you enjoy that. We'll be back on Monday morning to talk about the whole weekend slate of NFL games, Blue Jays action, and something's going to happen with the Leafs because it always does. Dan, thank you. This has been the Toronto Sports Rush Network brought to you by Bet Rivers.
See you, buddy.